Welcome to the Manager's Tips series, where we look at tips, strategies, approaches and considerations to help busy managers like you with day-to-day management and leadership. CS Training UK Limited are an approved centre for the Institute of Leadership and Management. We offer qualifications, online learning and face-to-face training. One of the most common challenges a manager faces is getting the work done in the time available. Now, this can be particularly true if you're expected to also carry out tasks that were associated with your previous role before taking on management. It can be easy for the management aspect of the role to feel more like a bolt-on to your existing job than a role in itself. It is useful then to know where to put our energies and our focus. And one of the more useful tools for helping with this is the Prioritisation Grid. A simple method of ensuring that we focus on what makes a difference to the job. Now, we all know the curse of the endless to-do list. That simple note we make of the ever-increasing list of jobs as they arise. Well, it's what we do with that list that makes the real difference. Whilst we need a list, simply adding to it without discerning anything about the jobs can lead to frustration and a lack of accomplishment. At worst, it can demotivate and lead to procrastination. So the Prioritisation Grid helps to categorise the task and decipher where we should start. Firstly, let's recognise the difference between an outcome, a goal and a task. If I wanted to ensure that X widget is ready for production by the 10th of the month and put this on my to-do list as get X widget ready for production, then I've identified a goal, not a task. Tasks are simply the things that need to be carried out in order to reach the goal. So the Prioritisation Grid is mainly associated with task completion. The grid itself looks like this. Firstly, let's explain the grids and then clarify how it works and break down a few myths about the grid. Grid A is the urgent and important grid. These are tasks that make a fundamental difference to the business. These are core to the job that you do, and you're running out of time, hence the urgent part of the grid. It's often called the crisis grid. Now, with Grid A, tasks, the approach is simple. Do them first, and do them now. Grid B is for tasks that are important, but you still have time to do them. This is often called the planning grid. Now, these tasks need to be done, and if we're not careful, we'll lose the luxury of time and they'll move into the crisis grid. So with Grid B tasks, they are the next on the list to do. Break your tasks down and do them in stages to ensure that as few as possible move into Grid A. Grid C is the tricky one. It's for those tasks that are urgent, but they're not that important. This is often called the quick win grid, and it tends to be the one that many of us start with. You've known people who get a few quick jobs out of the way before they start with the jobs that really matter. Now, we tend to make ourselves feel more accomplished and tick at least a few things off the list when we're working from this grid. But the tasks that probably keep us awake at night are still there in Grid A. The time spent clearing a few off the list could have been spent tackling some important or urgent tasks. This grid should be tackled only when there's time, only when there are no more tasks in the other two grids. Now, this sounds like just plain common sense, and yet it's surprising how many managers don't see through what is just common sense. Grid D is for tasks that are not urgent and are not important. It's often called the don't bother square for obvious reasons. Now, let's just break a few of the myths about some of the grids. Grid A. Not everything we do is urgent and important, comparatively. Comparatively, there is always going to be something that is more urgent or more important than something else. Now, you only have to look at how the emergency services manage the flow of incoming calls to realise this and how it could work in our own work. Grid C. If I don't do it, it will end up in Grid A. Actually, tasks in Grid C will only ever become more urgent, not more important. If a deadline is missed from Grid C, no real issue. If one is missed from Grid A, it could be a real problem. So from our to-do list, we can firstly place the tasks into the grid headings, or number them, or colour code them, or whatever else would work for you. It's also worth giving each task a time estimate, that is, how long it's likely to take, and now we can start to work with a better planned and hopefully more focused approach to the day. Now, whilst the grid is not the only answer to managing our time and priorities, it's a very good start. And I'd encourage managers to know what their team's grid look like as well. This helps with delegation and ensuring that the team understands the core focus of their roles and where their time should be being spent. Thanks for listening. If you enjoy this, please subscribe, and we'll be showing and demonstrating more managers' tips in the future.